Welcome back to the Explanation Pro. Today I'll recap a war drama film based on the true story of Eric Newby, a British soldier taken prisoner in Italy during World War II, called In Love and War. Spoilers incoming. In Italy, during the final year of World War I, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson sent teams of Red Cross doctors and nurses to boost Italian morale and help the wounded. Volunteers drive ambulances and work in the frontline canteens. Agnes von Kurowski talks about her experience, saying that she is one of the nurses who made an effort to take care of the U.S. troops, not knowing it would impact her life moving forward. During the summertime in northern Italy, a crowd cheers on an American Red Cross convoy carrying health workers, including Agnes. One of the soldiers, Harry Villard, is very enamored with her and requests she not forget to grab some ice cream with him on a date. As the nurses listen to the mayor's welcome address, a little boy happily tugs on Agnes' cap, thinking she is an angel. Afterward, the head nurse, Rosie, takes the group to the nunnery and explains the rules for handling patients. Later, Agnes and her colleagues take a walk to explore the town as they discuss Italian culture. By daylight, both sides charge into each other at the front lines of the Austrian invasion, leaving many casualties and injured soldiers taken out of the battlefield on stretchers. In another part of the countryside, 19-year-old Ernest Hemingway rides his bike merrily towards his base of operations to report for duty in the Red Cross. He approaches his senior officer for an assignment change to fight in the front lines but gets denied and relegated as a support personnel in charge of driving ambulances. Despite this, he travels to the PA front and delivers rations and cigarettes to the Italian army known as the Arditi, holding out inside the trenches. Introducing himself as a reporter from Kansas, he asks the men on duty about their time there while he becomes enthused by one of the rifles. Upon borrowing it, he pretends to shoot at the Austrian flank, hoping he will someday have his own rifle. As the enemy fire starts coming through, drafted waiter, Enrico Biscaglia, wonders why he did not become a soldier like them, which he mentions is a result of lying about his actual age and having an uncoordinated left eye. Suddenly, the group is caught in the middle of a massive explosion, leaving only one soldier, Roberto, alive for Hemingway to save. He carries him out of the dugout and gets shot in the leg in the middle of enemy fire. Luckily, a team of Italian soldiers rescues both men and takes them to the infirmary. Hemingway awakens as medical officers take care of his wound. Roberto lies beside him near death and demands that they take care of him first before passing out from a dose of a sleeping agent. Meanwhile, all nurses are alerted at the nunnery and prepare themselves for the incoming rush of injured soldiers. While some members of the Arditi are being attended to, a team brings in Hemingway, telling the nurses how impressed they were with his bravery on the battlefield. He is taken to bed 17, where Agnes is assigned to take care of him. She tries calming him down and hears the grateful soldier express his love for her, proposing marriage. She shrugs this, feeling that he is just delirious from the injuries he sustained. Well into the night, she briefly checks on Hemingway's condition and is immediately concerned about the state of the infection on the leg. She shares her worry with another nurse, Elsie MacDonald, who tells her that a doctor will arrive the next day, but she knows that if the gangrene is not treated right away, he will die. She wishes to treat the wound herself by irrigating it, only to be persuaded by Mac not to do anything without a doctor present. The next day, she volunteers to be Italian Dr. Domenico Caracciolo's surgical assistant, and they immediately examine the X-ray results of Hemingway's leg to confirm that the gangrene may be spreading. He leans heavily towards amputation while she points out that the soldier is quite young to lose a leg. She suggests that irrigation may be the best way to save his life, as she learned about this process working at Johns Hopkins Hospital in the U.S. The doctor dismisses the idea and orders her to prepare the soldier for surgery around 8:30 in the morning. Despite this, she visits Hemingway and gives him a gin and castor oil concoction to drink while she irrigates the infection. They start talking about each other's background, with him mentioning that he knows about some medical terms interacting with his doctor father. He chose not to pursue medicine and instead became a reporter for the Kansas City Star. He fears his leg will be cut, so he wishes to die instead of living his entire life as a limp. Agnes assures him that she will do whatever it takes to save it, provided he will cooperate. On the day of the operation, Dr. Caracciolo is astounded to smell no trace of gangrene inside the leg since Agnes has been treating it every hour since. Somehow, he is convinced to close up the wound instead of amputating the whole leg, as he mentions that life should be lived with little luxuries. After the successful operation, the doctor expresses interest in dating Agnes when she is off duty. Later, he checks up on him and puts the bullet shrapnel on his hand to symbolize his survival. He feels grateful and wishes to go dancing with Agnes one day. The next day, Henry is brought into the ward for a bad case of jaundice while stationed at Grappa. They tease each other about Agnes, as both men intend to be her boyfriend. Just then, one of the injured soldiers screams in pain, and Hemingway realizes it is his friend Jimmy. He rushes to his bed and sees him covered in bandages after getting hit with a phosphorus shell while distributing candy to the troops. After giving him some comfort, he goes to Agnes' study and sifts through her letters addressed to a doctor in Bellevue Hospital. He insists that she is in love with him and that they were meant to be together, but she laughs and sets his comments aside as she sends him out. Sometime later, Agnes agrees to go on a date with Dr. Caracciolo while being chaperoned by his adjutant. Henry stares at the two from the balcony as he tells Hemingway it is too late for them to woo Agnes. He does not believe this, insisting the doctor is too old for her. Meanwhile, in the city, Agnes goes on a walk with Caracciolo, where they discuss her family's history. Back at the ward, Hemingway persuades the caretaker Amelia to buy him and the soldiers some bottles of brandy. They gather on the balcony at night and drink their problems away while discussing how the nurses have treated them since their arrival. Rosie finds out about their indulgence in liquor and reprimands the men as they play cards. When she leaves, they show their poker hands as Hemingway reveals Jimmy's cards are winning the pot, with Agnes vouching. Sometime after, he goes for a walk around the grounds when Agnes sees him and tries to help him walk with one crutch. He continually admits falling for her and that she feels the same. She tries to turn him down because of their age difference but fails to say anything as she looks into his eyes. After that, Hemingway is on the road to recovery and is awarded a silver medal for his actions on the Piave River, saving Roberto's life. Photographs are taken to commemorate the ceremony, as the soldiers and nurses, including Agnes, pose with Hemingway holding the folded American flag. Later during surgery, she turns down an offer for a second date with Dr. Caracciolo, insisting that she will be busy with other patients. In the supplies room, Hemingway invites her to join in on a picnic with Harry, though intending to leave him behind to spend some alone time with her. She thinks about it as he begins to stroke her right foot passionately. The next day, however, he is disappointed to see Agnes on a carriage ride with Harry, so he comes along to keep an eye on him. Along the way, Roberto's father expresses his gratitude for saving his son by giving him his cape, even though he passed away. The group then stops by the lakeside and enjoys a nice picnic. In an attempt to win a bet, Hemingway foolishly jumps off the deck and swims on the lake, much to Agnes' horror, as she persuades him to come ashore. After agreeing to clean the fish he will catch, he swims back. Later, he and Harry have a petty argument, which annoys Agnes. Things get worse when he falsely brags about sleeping with her, which angers Agnes enough to slap him. Later at night, the hospital receives new patients from the 332nd Company of the U.S. Army. Hemingway apologizes for what happened while she works, only to be ignored. Much later, during the nightly rounds, a nurse finds that Jimmy has bled to death. When Hemingway finds out about this, he visits Agnes, knowing she has devoted most of her time to him. They read an unfinished letter he left for his parents, so he suggests they start over and make a new one for him. After writing, Agnes breaks down in tears and becomes overcome with passion, kissing Hemingway while he comforts her. In the morning, after Jimmy's body is shipped back to the U.S., she and some other nurses need to be moved closer to the front. As she can't find Hemingway to tell him the bad news in person, she asks Harry to give him a letter enclosed with her ring. As the fog rolls in the late afternoon, Hemingway tries to make amends with Harry, only to be shocked at finding out that she has left. While working on the front, Agnes receives a letter from Ernest telling her how much he misses her while he wears her ring. Later, the patients flood the medical tents as Dr. Caracciolo shows her pity, having worked for almost 21 hours. Finally able to catch a break at dawn, she sits on a chair and sees Hemingway from afar coming over to inform about orders to return to the United States. He declares his love for Agnes, asking her to meet him at a nearby hotel to spend their remaining time together. After making love, they have one last dance to prove he is not a good dancer. The following day at the train station, they promise to write each other daily letters until they can get married. As he departs, she says, "I love you," but the noise from the train is too loud for Hemingway to hear it. After some time spent on the front, Agnes confides in Harry about her feelings for Hemingway, even if they are 7 years apart. Later during her nap, she is asked by Mac to spend the weekend at Dr. Caracciolo's mansion. The three of them spend time together, seeing the surroundings of Venice. At a nearby mask store, the doctor makes subtle hints about his affection for her. Back in the U.S., Hemingway answers questions from the press and proudly declares his love for an American nurse. He sends her a letter about his welcome party and makes plans for their married life at Walloon Lake. While Hemingway adjusts back to his neighborhood, Agnes becomes closer to the wealthy doctor. At a fancy dinner, she expresses interest in leaving the medical field, which saddens him, knowing she is a gifted nurse. The following day at a derelict building, he shows her blueprints on a brand new hospital to be built there, with her as one of the head nurses. As they leave, he stops for a moment and proposes to her. Later, as the nurses prepare to return to the US, Mac advises her to make a final decision, but she is at a loss for what to do. She writes Hemingway one last letter, telling him their relationship must end, partly because of their age gap and the job offer. This devastates the veteran soldier as he smashes his room and clenches her ring on his fist. As she dances with the doctor at an evening gala, she is reminded of Hemingway. 8 months later, Agnes meets Harry in a restaurant in New York. She confesses that she did not marry the doctor and finds out that Hemingway is still furious over the letter she wrote. Harry convinces her to go to Ernest's family cabin to declare her love. Later at Walloon Lake, she comes over while Hemingway is fishing. He does not look happy to see her but welcomes her inside the cabin for a drink anyway. She finds out that he has been doing some writing while she updates him on the whereabouts of their former friends. She humbly admits that being with the doctor was a mistake, realizing that Hemingway was enough for her all along. Unfortunately, his pride gets the best of him as he refuses to accept her love, dismissing it as a fling. He admits he started changing the moment she rejected him, which breaks her heart to hear. She leaves the cabin after telling him she will love him for as long as she lives. Sadly, the two never see each other again. Agnes von Kurowski served in the American Red Cross until the end of World War II. She remained unmarried until she turned 36 and died at 92. Ernest Hemingway, who is now well known for his writing, succeeded in winning the 1954 Nobel Prize for Literature and wrote a novel called A Farewell to Arms, which details his experiences during World War I in Italy. After marrying 4 women during his lifetime, he committed suicide in 1961. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.